Hi, I'm Anthony F. Elmore in downtown Memphis on the mighty Mississippi River, bringing you another hot and fiery Black Memphis history lesson. This video is called Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris, This African Leader. I am the first person in Memphis history to record Black Memphis history and put it on a digital platform. I made a platform, a website called blackmemphishistory.com. Now, what I want you to understand, or what I want the youth to understand, is that when Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris was running for office, he ran for office based on a platform of education. I wrote letters and I met Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris. I explained how Memphis Mayor Dr. W. Harrington hated Africa, whereas he wanted nothing to do with Africa, whereas I have been trying for over 3 decades to make a trade deal with Africa. I asked Mayor Lee Harris to write a letter, an invitation on my behalf to African dignitaries to come to Memphis to celebrate our 200th anniversary. Based on Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris' letter, African dignitaries came to Memphis headed by Dr. Anyang Nongo and other African dignitaries. On a side note, Kenya President Dr. William Ruto was just in America a few days ago, whereas he was welcomed by President Biden. However, the Republican Mike Johnson, he would not allow the Kenyan president to speak to Congress, whereas it was racism against Africa and the African president. You see, the same racism that happened in Washington, D.C. against Kenyan President Dr. William Ruto, the same racism happened in Memphis from Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris. We see what happened was when Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris realized the African dignitaries are actually coming to Memphis, he went silent and cut off all communication, whereas when the African dignitaries got to the airport in Memphis, they had no connection because Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris wanted no association with them, and I had to move very quickly to get them connected in Memphis. You see, what happened was, imagine having dignitaries fly to Memphis and arrive at the airport, whereas Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris cut communication and wanted no association with the Africans. I had to move very fast. In fact, I called Kojic Bishop Jerry Ivory, who was the presiding bishop of the Kenya jurisdiction of the Church in God in Christ. He picked up the African dignitaries at the airport and accommodated them. You see, I set them at the Holiday Inn Hotel on Democrat, right at Democrat and Airways. Now, I called Margie Thomas, who is the director of the office of Memphis Congressman Steve Cohen. Margie Thomas went to the hotel where I booked them, and what Margie Thomas did was she took a cell phone, whereas Congressman Steve Cohen, this is in October of 2019, he was in the middle of hearings where they were prosecuting Donald Trump, and Congressman Cohen spoke to the African dignitaries and welcomed them to Memphis. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my African dignitaries, who was headed by Dr. Anyang Nongo. He taught at Harvard, and he had to fight challenges in Kenya, whereas he was offered a job teaching African studies in Latin America, whereas on March 1st, 1983, in Mexico City, Mexico, he had a daughter was born in Mexico. His daughter went on to win an Academy Award in 2013 for her role in the movie 12 Years a Slave. His daughter's name is Lupita Nyong'o, who is also a star of the Black Panther movie. Just as Republican Mike Johnson was racist against Kenyan President Dr. William Ruto, Black Memphis Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris was racist against the father of Academy Award winner Lupita Nyong'o. He would not invite them to his office. As here we are, citizens in Memphis, you have an African governor of the third largest city in Kenya called Kisumu, Kenya. He's the father of the Black Panther star Lupita Nyong'o. And our Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris would not invite the African dignitaries to his office. You see, for the record, ladies and gentlemen, our African American Mayor Lee Harris dished the father of the Black Panther star Lupita Nyong'o, who so many of us in America honors and love Lupita Nyong'o, who is an Academy Award winner. You see, Lee Harris, Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris wanted no association with Africa or Africans. This is a fact. If a white dignitaries were to come from Europe, this black elected mayor would have bent over backwards for white dignitaries. See, you young people who are watching this are the Alpha generation, and you can question Black Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris why he would be racist against black African leaders. Because of you are digital, you can tell the story up to the Alpha generation. I made a video at the time when they came here, and I want you to meet Tennessee State Representative Joe Towns. It was Joe Towns Jr. who used his influence as an elected official to accommodate the Africans' visit to Memphis. Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris dished the father of Black Panther movie, Dr. Peter Nyong'o. Look at this video that I produced, and I ask, and I want you to ask, Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris, a black mayor, and people of Memphis should ask him, why would he dish the father of the Black Panther movie, Lupita Nyong'o? Let's watch the video. Kenyan dignitaries made their first stop in Memphis in Orange Mountain, the first neighborhood built for blacks by blacks in America. They visited the home of Anthony Amp Elmore, the first all-African home in America. Elmore explained that African Americans spend in excess of $600 million a year on home furnishing. Elmore wants to partner with Kenya to produce home furnishings for the American market. Elmore treated the dignitaries to authentic African food. At 10:30, the group took the VIP FedEx tour. FedEx explained that they started entering to Africa in South Africa, and they highly value Kenya, and that they want to move to look into going to Kenya in the future. Thursday, October the 31st, history repeated itself. Whereas in 1959, Tom and Boyer started Outlift America via asking college presidents to give African students scholarships, Lemoyne College president Dr. Carol Johnson not only welcomed the African dignitaries with scholarships, the African students at Lemoyne College and the president introduced an exchange and cultural educational program for Kenya. The group later went to St. Jude Hospital, where they were met with and by Tennessee State Representative Joe Towns. Senator Towns arranged not only a VIP tour for the African dignitaries, St. Jude made it known to the Kenyans that the cost of St. Jude is 100% free, including travel and stay for the parents. St. Jude President Richard C. Shattuck Jr. explained that St. Jude was on the forefront in the early 60s fighting against segregation at the hospital, and St. Jude is fair to everyone. Residents in the town arranged for Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris to meet the dignitaries at St. Jude, whereas they exchanged gifts. St. Jude treated the African dignitaries to lunch at McEwen's downtown, and after lunch, the group went to Mason Temple, where Dr. Martin Luther King made his last speech. After going to Mason Temple, the group celebrated at the Kukatana African American Museum, owned by community activist Dr. Katnita Atwater. The group was astounded to find the Kenyan flag and the place eloquently decorated in the Kenyan colors of their flag, red, black, and green. They were astounded and blown away to find more African culture in Memphis than they almost have in Africa, from the clothes to the culture to the display to the spirit of the African Americans. We celebrated the Tom and Boya Unity Banquet at the Kukatana African American Museum. Tom and Boya is one of the founding fathers of Kenya, and we celebrated and honored Tom and Boya's 50th, and we also took the time to make this celebration a part of Memphis' 200th anniversary, and we also honored the 50th anniversary of Tom and Boya and the 50th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King. On Friday morning, the group met at the office of Congressman Steve Cohen, and they were surprised to meet the king of the Chitlin Circuit, Mr. Bobby Rush, as they showed together the Wakanda salute. The group was treated to lunch by Mr. Devin Buford of First Horizon Bank. Mr. Buford is the Vice President of International Banking, and he provided them lunch at the Memphis Chamber of Commerce, whereas the Chamber's President, Ms. Beverly Robertson, welcomed the group and committed not only to developing trade, economics, business development. The Chamber offered technical assistance to Kenya. The group was on a total whirlwind tour. In fact, after meeting the Chamber of Commerce, the group rushed to the Martin Luther King National Civil Rights Museum, where they met Congressman Steve Cohen. The group meeting with Memphis Congressman Steve Cohen was perhaps the most significant part of the meeting. For the time he got elected to Congress in November 2006, 90 days later, Congressman Steve Cohen was at Anthony Elmore's house for the first Black History Month African dinner. Memphis Congressman Steve Cohen took a picture, and it's rare to see even a black congressman with the background of kente cloth. Congressman Steve Cohen was the first to introduce legislation and got it passed, whereas America apologized for slavery. Congressman Cohen arranged for Elmore to meet with the Congressional Black Caucus to support the idea of a homecoming celebration in Kenya. Congressman Cohen not only took an African mudcloth tuxedo that Elmore made in Ghana for President Obama, Congressman Cohen mentioned about the work of Elmore on the floor of Congress. Congressman Cohen has visited 6 African countries and was prepared to go to Kenya years ago after arranging for Elmore to meet Kenya Ambassador Peter Ogigo. Congressman Cohen in Memphis was the first to acknowledge Tom and Boya's 60th. Listen to what Congressman Cohen said at Tom and Boya's 60th.
While we're here at AMP Elmore, AMP has done so much to try to help promote Memphis and international trade with Africa, with Kenya in particular. We've worked with him and will continue to work with him with ambassadors and embassies in Washington trying to promote trade. It's a logical thing to do, and it's imperative that we have Memphis in the forefront to try to take this as an opportunity to promote Memphis and Africa, and that's what AMP can do.
We have our United States Congressman prepared to visit Kenya. Elmore asked Congressman Cohen to use his influence to ensure that the pioneers like Thurgood Marshall, who wrote Kenya's first constitution, Harry Belafonte, Jackie Robinson, Sidney Poitier, Eleanor Roosevelt, A. Philip Randolph, President John F. Kennedy, and all the Americans who supported the birth of Kenya be properly honored. We want to develop a trade deal with Kenya. An acronym for trade means transforming, repositioning African descendants economics. African Americans spent $63 billion in 2018 on tourism. Black America buying power is $1.2 trillion. In 1990, my Memphis-made movie, The Contemporary Gladiator, played in Kenya. In 1992, Kenya President Daniel Arap Moi named me an African ambassador. We wanted to arrange a trade deal with Kenya. However, Memphis Mayor Dr. Deborah Harrington hated Africa. Dr. Anyang Nangyo is an advisor to the Kenyan president, whereas Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris was outright racist to African leaders. The Congressional Black Caucus committed to traveling to Kenya and establishing relationships. We have direct connections to Kenyan President Dr. William Ruto. In fact, we will shoot scenes of our movie Rock and Roll: A Black Legacy in Kisumu, Kenya, whereas this is an opportunity to build a formal relationship with Kenya. We asked our newly elected mayor, Paul Young, to stop the racism. Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris is racist against Africa and Africans. Here is Steve Harvey with Kenyan President Dr. William Ruto, whereas Steve Harvey is going to Kenya. The Kenya group concluded their Memphis tour at the Malco Majestic Theater in Memphis, where Governor Nango and the African dignitaries were met with applause, and everyone bonded watching the movie Harriet. Anthony F. Elmore calls himself the Harriet of the 21st century, whose prayer is to bring the African and the African American family together.
Memphis and the city of Kisumu. So you will see more of us in the city of Memphis. I will see more of you in Kisumu and Kenya, the popular Victoria. Are you welcome and you coming?
Yes.
Coming?
Yes.
I will see you there.